Hi, hello. My name's Nick and this is my very first video ever. So let's see, this arrived about half an hour ago. So let's start from the very beginning. It's a very good place to start. And let's see what we have. And I'm hoping to go through all of this step by step. And please remember, I'm not David Bailey or a professional photographer, so please bear with my amateurish ways. So, then a toy. Now, when these came out, I was a little boy, and I had a Spitfire. I wanted the Messerschmitt, but we were not a very well-off family, and these were things that just mum and dad just could not afford. So that's what we have inside. They've obviously tried to blacken this out in their attempts to make it more into a model. There's your switch, which has no, I don't know if that will focus or not, has no brass part to it, but we don't really need that because we can put the AAA battery straight in to there. The motor is with it. Whether that works or not, I don't know, but what I will do is I will solder a wire in there from the body to the spring part, which is the negative side of the motor, and obviously this center pin here, you see properly, center pin here is the positive side. Now these have one magnet inside, and if I can find my multimeter, I will see if there's any resistance, and if there is, that probably means that it will work. I will just take off the propeller there as carefully as I can. There you go, and that motor will just drop out. Okay, so we have the second part now, and what we're going to do is this will go into the bowl along with the main part, the propeller, the canopy, and don't forget the screw. Screw there. Okay, and there we go. Now that's warm water. There's your caustic soda. I will show you a better view of this in a moment, but you just pour caustic soda all over everything like that. Okay, and you had better open the windows. Okay, so that has now been in the bowl for about an hour. I've been messing around in the garden. You'll see that there's lots of stuff floating around, bits of decal, paint, everything else. So let's have a look and see how it's turned out. Now, get yourself some washing up gloves. I'm sorry that the angle isn't quite as good as it could be, but as I said, I'm not a professional at this, and I want you to be able to see what comes out of the bowl. So this has been in caustic soda for about an hour. Pick out the main part, and I think that has come out pretty much perfect. There's no grudge or anything. All the paint is off. Oh, there's a little slight bit there on the air intake. So what you do is you grab a cocktail stick and just give that a bit of a poke around like that, just to get it out of the gaps and things. And you don't want to use any metal to scrape this off. You'll just end up damaging it. Oh yeah, use a little sponge. And yeah, I don't know whether you can see that. Just on the air intake there. Okay. I see no real reason to take this off at all. Just leave it in situ. And we'll just do a little bit of wiping down. Now, what you can do, now this is my little tip. If you get yourself some wire wool, this is for French polishing. It's a really, really fine wire wool. They do come in different grades. This is one of the finest grades, and they do use this in French polishing, so I found out. Just grab yourself a little bit off there, and ever so lightly, just give it a rub. And because what happens is the metal will slightly oxidize, and you need to get rid of that oxidization. Get it down to the absolute bare metal, and you can see that this has been played with. Possibly could be rough casting from the factory, and you can see just by, you don't even have to do it hard or anything like that, you know, just quick once over and shines right up, and that then will allow the primer to adhere. And your main problem with these dinky aircraft, I don't know about the cars, I don't get into cars, is that the paint will chip off, and it doesn't seem to matter how much lacquer you put on or varnish, the paint will chip off. And so what I'm doing is I'm now going to try etching primer, and I've not painted over etching primer just yet. I have got a Spitfire or two that I've sprayed with etching primer, but this is something that my friend who works in the body paneling industry said, yeah, get a can of etching primer, it'll get into the metal and it'll cling to it. So I'm going to try that, and then put some white model primer spray can over the top, and hopefully then when I come to spray this, it will adhere and stay adhered and not chip off. But like I said, I will try and find this other example that I have, and we'll probably try and get this one better than the one I did, because the only thing that spoils the other one really is the fact that paint is chipped off. It chips off chiefly on the panel lines, which are raised, so they get they get knocked and bashed, and it just falls off, you know. So there you go. So here we are. This is a Dinky 109 I did about 6-8 years ago, and as you can see there's lots of chipping of the paint, which absolutely ruins the full effect of the model. And again, you can see it underneath and across the edges. So I'll just put that up there so you can see all across the edges and everything else. Yeah, this chipping just completely ruins everything about painting these craft. Again, this is one I did a long time ago. Got chips of paint everywhere on here, on the trailing edges of the wing and underneath, and it really spoils everything. So I'm going to dip these back into caustic soda and redo them completely. But these were done quite some years ago, so you know, I'm not feeling too bad about it. You live and you learn, and that's how things get done. So what we have here now is the cleaned up 109. I'll just put the screw back in so I can get the body into one piece. Obviously I don't want to fill up the middle of the battery bay, and I'm going to try and cover this with etching primer. Now this is the etching primer. Now I'm pretty sure that this is empty, well, practically empty, so I may have to go out tomorrow and buy some more. However, I did mention about the canopy and soaking that in some Windoline. So what I'll do is I'll take the cap off the etching primer, dump that in there, and actually it wasn't Windoline, it was Finish by the Asda. And what I'll do, I'll just put that in there, and that will soak for as long as it takes. I'll put that to one side and put that cap back on. Now a little tip for you, or two little tips. What I tend to do is, if I'm painting or anything like that, I buy a roll of wallpaper liner. It costs about £4, something like that, and you get loads and loads and loads and loads and loads. So I just put it down, and then if it gets too bad, I just flip it over and use the other side, and makes a nice clean bench, and you can use it for testing your spray gun. See how the consistency of the paint comes out. This here is a decorating stand for cakes, and it rotates. I bought this from, I think I bought it from a pound shop years and years and years ago. So this is pretty good, to be honest. And I took off the legs, the undercarriage, which I will mask up another time. Some people like to take the rivet out and take the wheel off, and then your only option then is to glue it back in. Now I'm not so keen on that, so I'm going to mask that up, and we'll see how they turn out. They seem to have turned out okay on the other models, and so obviously this will have to get painted, but we'll put that to one side for now. So all that being said, the rest of the bits, which includes the switch and the motor, will now go in there. Put them to one side for now, and I'm going to give this a really good shake. In the meantime, I've got some white primer. Now because we're using a light blue paint, we're going to need a white primer. So here goes. I have no idea whether there's enough etching primer in here or not. Okay. And I am going to leave that exactly as it is, let it dry, turn it over, and then once the underside is dry, I will then add the white primer. This is why I quite like using this, because you can just get around everything. Obviously I've got to do the underneath, but hey, you can't have everything. So I'm just going to leave that as it is for now, and we'll come back to it. Okay, ready for the next part.